What is up, y'all? Welcome back to 31 Days for 31 Frights. Today marks the start of a new decade. We ride high into the 90s with a Saw-esque film called Cube. Now, I've never seen this movie at all in my entire life, but it was actually recommended by some of my close friends, one of them being what I think is the greatest Mirror's Edge speedrunner, Frixie. So go ahead and show my boy some extra love because I like watching his content, and the movie he recommended was actually pretty fun. Now, let's get into the real meat potatoes of this thing. The movie starts out with a guy walking around the cube until he gets caught in a trap. I'm going to say something you're not going to like, but it cubes him into little bits. And I do mean that with the fullest pun ever. But anyway, this will set up the tone and how crazy the makeup and effects will get throughout the movie. Fast forward a little bit, we're introduced to one of the main characters. They're also locked in the cube full of traps galore, but we're introduced to even more people. Some of them being this one guy who we think is like someone who might be our sole survivor. But I kid you not, in like the first 10, 15 minutes, he dies. He gets acid sprayed in his face and he straight up melts, which is kind of disappointing because we're left with these other incompetent people. But what they end up doing is they have this one girl there who's got some of the craziest mental math skill ever. And like they straight up give her like this big old 4 digit number, or like not four, it's like 6 digits. Like, all right, you can figure out the prime number of that, can't you? They all beg on this one little girl who's like, okay, I'll do that. I don't know. It's insane how they did that. But it all seems to go perfectly fine until the only room they haven't checked was this one ceiling tile room where this one mentally handicapped man falls through and almost crushes the girl to death. This man actually happens to have one of the craziest skills ever, where he's able to use his Rain Man equivalent math skills to factor out large, huge, like ginormous numbers. And he's like, oh yeah, that has a factor of two. But he's able to use that as a skill to get out. But that's also towards the end of the movie, which they don't reveal later. One of the men that posed as the group's leader thought he could handle the lives of everybody there, but instead he ends up killing one of the women because he thought that she was an informant to the people that built the cube. And speaking of people that actually built the cube, they do have a person in their group who designed the blueprints for the cube. But before the leader gave the woman the Mufasa treatment, we also learned that she was taking care of the mentally handicapped man. And he was like kind of keeping them down, but everybody despised him because, he was handicapped and he couldn't control anything that he was doing. But enough of that. You don't want to hear about that because, like I said, he plays a part in the movie. I'm not going to say too much about it because I still think you should watch the movie yourself. But the leader that we all thought was kind of cool grows severely paranoid and begins to assault the young college student. He tries to force himself on her, but is later thwarted by the designer of the cube shell. The three people that were able to get out was the last girl that he was trying to assault, the cube designer, and the mentally handicapped man. They are able to ditch him and make it to the end of the maze because, like I said, he uses his Rain Man skill to count and factor all the numbers. But unfortunately, the mad leader caught up to them and he stabs the girl in the chest with the spike that he found, which I don't even know how he was able to get it, but he still did. He also fights the designer after he stabs him too, but he still had just enough strength to hold him back, and he was able to like hold him right as it starts shifting. So it's like they don't show it, but they do show a red smear. But he like gets crushed in like half, and it's kind of gross. But they have like this wide panning shot, and it's him like on a red smear across the wall in this dark room. But it does zoom back in to the guy, the mentally handicapped man who was able to get out, and it zooms into him as he walks into the light, making us think that he's going to be a free man. But that was my speed run review of the Cube. Uh, I'm just gonna say I think it was a really good movie. I liked how they were able to use like this minimal setting to like emphasize how big this place is, even though that they were in a 14 like feet wide room, which is insane. But they actually had one panel that was a real door, and there was the only one they, or at least the only way they could get in or get out. And I thought that was pretty sick that they were able to do that without us knowing. But the way they were able to change the colors of the cube was they used gel panels, and that was the way they made us think it was in different rooms, which was pretty cool. But apparently there's supposed to be another one, but they ran out of money and couldn't afford it. But I just think that it was so cool how they were able to use anything and everything in their budget so they can try and make this movie happen. It was like $500,000, I think, is what they used to make this movie, which is pretty cool. But that was what I have to say about the movie. Here's my opinion. I know you guys love hearing my opinions, no matter how wrong they are. You still seem to not watch them and hear them. But I recommend you watch it. I think it's kind of fun. I did everything I could to skirt around some of the major parts of the movie, but I still said enough to spoil just a bit. But if you guys like this video, comment your favorite 90s horror movie because I love seeing whatever you guys like to say. Consider liking and subscribing if you like this. And as always, I hope you enjoyed. Bye.